What up, guys, and welcome to my first Cosmos/Injective market update/release update video, where I'm going to cover the hottest new releases in the Cosmos ecosystem that I think you need to be paying attention to. Without further ado, guys, let's get into it. The first thing on the list is Altlayer. Now, I made a video covering Altlayer. I'm actually pretty bullish on it long term just because it's an infrastructure-based project, and they already did their airdrop to everyone on Ethereum and all these different layer 2s and Pudgy Penguins and several other NFTs. But for those that are staking TIA, they actually had the largest staking TIA requirement that we've seen to date, and this was 35 TIA, so about $600 US at the time of this recording. Now, if you were staking at least $600, you only have another 12 days to go on their airdrop.altlayer.io website. I'll have the link in the description, and you're going to need to register your wallet in order to claim that airdrop. Now, the fact that this staking requirement was so high might change the game a little bit when it comes to the amount of TIA you're staking in each wallet. Like I said, this is actually the largest number that we've seen so far, and it might make sense to have some wallets over $500 or even over $1,000 if you can afford it. I still think most of the airdrops are going to be under that $150 number, but we could potentially see this a trend, and we'd hate to miss out on additional airdrops. So for me personally, I'm going to be staking some of my wallets with significantly more Celestia, just so I don't miss out on some of the opportunities like this one. Luckily, my main wallet did have enough TIA here. I registered for my wallet, actually bought Altlayer on the secondary when it launched on Binance, and I'm just going to continue to hold this and see how it performs before July, which is when the team and VC tokens start rolling out. The next project that I want to bring up here is Dymension. Now, Dymension I've covered in a previous video, and I highly recommend it because this is a pretty revolutionary or innovative tech, and it's a new layer 1 rather than a bunch of these different layer 2s that are just using Celestia DA or Eigenlayer or whatever the case is. Now, Dymension has a lot to prove in my opinion, but their token is coming out February 6th, so it's important to have on your radar. What's really interesting about Dymension, guys, is the initial circulating supply is going to be about 8% from this roll drop, which is kind of their airdrop, as well as 33% of their 20% total supply for their ecosystem and R&D development, so approximately 146 million tokens. Now, one of the things that's been nice recently is all of these different pre-markets that have been coming up where people can actually trade these different tokens to see approximately where the valuation is before it goes live. There's two different sites I recommend doing this, guys. One of the sites is called Avio, and this is actually at a $3.88 price for Dymension. And there's also another site called Whales Market, where once again you can see all of these different coins before they list, and right now it's going for about $4 per token on this site. So definitely a lot of hype with Dymension. I'm not exactly sure what my game plan is as of yet. Once I do have that, I'm going to post it in our Discord. It is probably going to be Jelly Cube's only access for that, but I think that this Dymension is something that everyone should have on your radar and has high potential to be a long-term performer. The next thing that I want to cover is Dojoswap. Now, I've talked about Dojoswap extensively on this channel. I've invested in it since day one. I was farming before the token even went live, and this team has been delivering at such a high level and have been delivering so many different things. It's like every single day there's something new on their Twitter that they're releasing or that their team has developed. The big thing that is coming that they just announced is they are having the premier injective airdrop platform where you're going to be able to have all these different airdrops from different projects that want to get that additional exposure. And there's two airdrops coming this month. The first airdrop that we're going to see is actually called Punk. Now, Punk is from Destiny Punks. It's going to be their main token where 50% of all of their revenues generated from their upcoming utilities and roadmap will go towards monthly buybacks and burns of this Punk token. So pretty much a revenue share system where as their protocol hopefully gains success and generates more revenue, there'll be more buyback and burn pressure on their actual Punk supply. Now, what's interesting with these different airdrops is that you need to make sure that you're either holding Dojo Pool, Dojo Earn Kaje Pool, Dojo Injective Farm. I mean, you guys can read this right here, but what's really interesting is if you sell any of your dojo or any of your kaji or any of your roller, any of that during the holding snapshot period, you will lose 100% of your qualification for the airdrop, which is pretty nuts. And I haven't seen too many people mention that, so I wanted to include that in this video. For this first one with Punk, you'll notice that their snapshot period actually started February 3rd and goes all the way to February 8th. And then on February 8th, we're going to get this airdrop. I haven't dived too much into Destiny Punks and their upcoming Punk token, so I don't want to do too deep of an analysis here, but most of the time when I get these airdrops, I simply sell them right away. Maybe once I do some more research on this, I'll determine if I want to hold that token a little bit longer. The other airdrop that I'm actually way more excited about is called Baby Dojo. I don't know if you guys have seen Cake in the past from PancakeSwap and how they had Baby Cake, but what they're doing is they're releasing a meme token to every single holder of Dojo, Kaje, and Roll. And for every $1 worth of any of those tokens I just said you have, you're going to get 42 cents worth of this Baby Dojo. Now, the reason they're saying 42 cents is because they're going to add the liquidity based on a 42 cents price. And it's a little bit misleading for people because people are saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a 40% gain on this. I'd be extremely surprised if they actually held its price. And I think a lot of people are simply going to dump the token right away. That's actually what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to claim the tokens, airdrop, and then dump it right away. And if I'm quick, I can actually lock in a 30 to 40% gain on it. But outside of that little short-term play, when it comes to this Baby Dojo, they have a 10% tax on every single transaction. So every single time someone buys or sells, there's a 10% fee. 8% goes to buying back Dojo and redistributing that to Baby Dojo holders. 1% goes to buying Dojo and then burning it. And then 1% goes to the liquidity pool of this Baby Dojo. Now, when Cake did this with PancakeSwap, it actually performed pretty well in the short and medium term. And then over time, the Ponzi kind of dies in a way. Because essentially, guys, this is all about volume. How much volume and how much speculation is going to go into this Baby Dojo token. The more people buying it, the more people speculating on it, the more volume, and that means there's going to be an even bigger increase of the amount of Dojo that's getting bought back and distributed. So it's one of those different strategy games where it's like, okay, do I hold this token, and the longer I hold it and the more volume that happens, the more fees I'm going to get distributed, and it's almost like passive income, or do I try to sell this, maybe buy Dojo, whatever the case is. There's a lot of different routes with it, but I'm really excited to see this come out, and I'm interested to see what they have going on to get people interested in holding Baby Dojo. I'm curious to see if they add more utilities or if it's just going to be a Ponzi thing where you hope more people buy after you and you hope those 8% get distributed to you, and then you hope that people chase that because they're like, oh my God, I'm making so much money simply holding Baby Dojo. And then now all of a sudden more people buy Baby Dojo. It's one big Ponzi scheme in all honesty, guys, but it's interesting that they're doing this, and I think it's going to add a lot of buy pressure, not only for Roll, but also for Cage and also for Dojo, because they're all getting the same weight of allocation. I actually made a play in the Jellycube server, so if you want to buy a Jellycube, join our server and see that play, you can, but I'm actually pretty bullish on what's to come here and just Dojoswap in the next month in general. If you want to learn more information about this airdrop as well, I'm going to have their article in the description where you can kind of read through all of the different information, and I expect more projects in the future to actually give airdrops to Dojo holders. And one thing that I want to clarify is that this Punk airdrop is just going to be towards Dojo holders. It's only that Baby Dojo that's going to be going towards everyone that holds any of their ecosystem tokens. The next protocol that I want to cover here is going to be Hydro. I've talked about Hydro in the past, but they recently went to mainnet, and you can actually go in and liquid stake your injective to get H injective. So you can go on here and you can still get a 15% APR simply by staking your injective. And at any point in time, guys, you can actually sell that H injective back to injective because there's different liquidity pools out there to do so. One of the downsides, and I've mentioned this previously, is that now you might miss out on different airdrops that are going towards these various validators that are staking injective. And a lot of times these liquid staking protocols don't actually get the airdrops. One thing that is nice about this protocol though, is that you can actually go on here, you can mint and stake your H injective. So now all of a sudden you're going to get 15.23%, but then you can actually go to the farm tab and you can actually farm that H injective as well. So not only are you getting the 15.23% APR, but now you're also getting points, which are redeemable 1-for-1 with the new Hydro token that should be coming out sometime in the next month if I was to make a prediction here. When I first saw the site, I wasn't sure if you were able to actually get the farming rewards, the points, as well as that APR on your H injective. But when I look at it over here, it's saying that you can actually mint 10 injective into H injective, then add those 10 H injective into the farm for an additional HDRO incentive. So now you're getting the 16% APY, or about 15.23%. And then on an additional, you get the boost of HDRO for the farming. So it looks like we're able to get that APR on top of actually getting all those HDRO rewards. And this is one of the biggest protocols that are releasing on injective, at least in the near future. Now you're probably wondering, how much are these HDR tokens going to cost? And I have a little bit of speculation here, but there's a decent amount of assumptions. So don't take this to the holy grail per se, because there's some different assumptions that we're making. But they have their tokenomics already listed. There's going to be 1 billion tokens, and they say there's 2% for a Genesis incentive. 5% is going to be the public sale, which is going to happen on Mito. We then have 10% investor, 12% team, 10% farm, 10% liquidity, and 51% treasury. It doesn't actually tell us how much of the supply is going to be circulating, but I'm assuming that this 5% and 2% are going to be circulating. And then I'm just going to assume that this 10% for the liquidity is also going to be circulating right away as well. Now, it might be less than this 17% number, but I wanted to give an overall higher estimate. What's interesting is when we take into consideration some of the different protocols out there, and I typed up some notes here so that you guys can see, is that Dojoswap, which is probably the closest competitor because they have a similar amount of following, they've been building for a while, they have a lot of hype behind them, etc., even though they're doing slightly different things. Dojoswap has around a 14 million circulating market cap right now. Now, if we have 17% of the supply circulating when it comes to the Hydro protocol and the Hydro token, we would be looking at about 170 million of their 1 billion tokens. If we were to assume that their circulating market cap, which at 17%, which we don't know if that's going to be the circulating supply, simply matches what Dojo is doing, we would be looking at 0.083 per token, or upwards of 0.249 per token if it actually went to a 42 million circulating, which is about 3 times larger than what Dojoswap currently is. This means that would also be an FDV of about 82 million to 246 million. And before any of you guys say, oh, well, Dojoswap's FDV is a way higher crazy number, it really doesn't matter, guys, because if you've been paying attention, you'll know that we're going to be able to burn a very large percentage of that supply that isn't circulating yet with their DAO governance vote. So when I look at Dojoswap, I'm only looking at circulating, and I hope other people are doing the same, because their FDV truly doesn't matter when we know we're going to burn a lot of those tokens. Now what I did is I said, okay, let's say I'm putting $100 of injected, which is about 3 injected at the time of this recording. You end up getting about 1.12 Hydro a day, which at this price range that I had just said would be about $0.09296 to $0.279 for every single $100 you stake. That means that over the course of the year, you'd get about $34 to $91 per $100 you put in, which means that the APR is probably somewhere between 34 and 91%. Now, once again, this is just a little bit of speculation, but we're able to get that 15.23%. And then on top of that, on the low end, I'm assuming that we're going to get another 30% on top of that. Just be aware though, guys, that as more people add in to this actual H injective and start farming that, your actual points are probably going to be less. In the situation that this circulating supply is actually lower, then we could see this APR being even higher, which makes Hydro protocol right now probably one of the best yields when it comes to the injective ecosystem, at least based on the assumptions that I just made. I'll probably make a deeper dive on Hydro protocol in the future once we get a little bit more information about some of these concrete numbers and their release date and how much they're raising the sale. Like, there's a lot of different things to pay attention to actually get more accurate numbers. So stay tuned and subscribe for that. But the last thing that I wanted to include in this market update video for today is actually Mito Finance. Now, I think Mito Finance is probably the most hyped up release that's coming on injective. A lot of people have been patiently waiting for it. And on February 2nd, so 2 days ago at the time of this recording, they put like this whole entire meme saying Mito is coming soon. So I just wanted to have this on everyone's radar, because I personally think that Mito, depending on how they set up their tokenomics and depending on how they actually release, could be one of the most hyped up and biggest drops happening on the injective ecosystem, and is definitely one to have on your radar. So just give them a follow. I don't know know if I'll be able to make a video in time, but I do plan on making a video once we actually get a release date and solidified information, and do a whole breakdown like I've done with other projects in the past on this channel. Hey everyone, there's actually 3 more things I wanted to add to the end of this video that recently got announced and I think needs to be on your radar. Thing number 1 is Black Panther finally announced their claim drop schedule for everyone that was delegating to their Black Panther validator. We knew this claim drop was going to happen for a while now, and they're saying that over 100,000 ninjas or 100,000 wallets are eligible for this drop. So they already took the first snapshot, but there's going to be a second snapshot on the 29th of February, and the average amount of injective you stake from the first and second snapshot will determine your airdrop allocation. Then on the 1st of March, you're going to be able to claim your reward point tokens on their airdrop page, and then after that, there's weekly snapshots between March 1st and March 31st where people can continue staking injective with Black Panther, and then there'll be another claim drop. So it looks like you can already stake more if you wanted to get part of that next claim drop, but if you hadn't already been staking before this snapshot, then you're not going to be able to get this first claim drop that's going to happen. And by the way, because this project is also launching on Mito Finance and Hydro Protocol is also launching on Mito Finance, I do expect Mito Finance to be very soon, like that tweet said. Another airdrop that you guys can start farming is the liquid staking of TIA using Stride. Now, Stride already has liquid staking on a couple other protocols, but they're taking 5% of their max supply and they're going to airdrop it to ST TIA holders. Now, I can make a whole video covering how exactly to do this, but in the meantime, I'll have this tweet in the description so you guys can go through it. But like I said, they're already on DYDX, Atom, Osmo, Stars, and many more, and they're continuing this modular expansion with TIA, and they're going to do a huge airdrop. So pretty much the same situation where you can actually get your liquid TIA, then you have your ST TIA. They're going to have a huge bonus incentive for people that are doing this pretty early and starting today at 10 p.m. UTC. So by the time you watch this video, you're actually going to be able to do any of these options. So you can actually have it idle in your address for Stride or Osmosis, or you can even have it in one of their pools, or you can even have it on Neutron. And like I said, I can make a whole video for people that need to know more about this. I already covered how to do this on Milky Way, and I've still been doing that, but a lot of people are starting to put their Milk TIA or their liquid staking TIA over onto Stride just because they're a much more well-known platform and team. Another point that I want to make is that a lot of people have been telling me that liquid stakers are actually going to be getting airdrops, and this was announced somewhere, I believe, by the Milky Way team. We'll have to see how that all works, but if they are actually getting airdrops, then there's no reason not to do liquid staking in a lot of situations. And like I said earlier, with the Hydro Protocol and doing their liquid staking, maybe you miss out on airdrops. We'll have to see if that's actually the case or not. Once again, if it's not, that's actually a pretty big deal, and it means that we should really do liquid staking for almost everything, with the exception of a few validators that we know have airdrops coming. Speaking of validators that we know have an airdrop coming, Prizm, which I've covered their testnet, actually announced that their injective validator is going to get an airdrop. So I'll have this Twitter post in the description as well that gives you a whole entire how-to on how to actually delegate or redelegate your injective to their validator. And it's just going to be a straight up airdrop where you get 10 Prizm tokens for every $1 commission donated to the validator. So I'll probably switch over some of my injective to this just because we know it's a guaranteed airdrop. And yes, the commission rate is higher. I think it's 7.5% rather than 5%, but I think this airdrop will most likely make up for it. And it's worth having some of your injective in it, especially since it's guaranteed and they've already had a lot of success on their testnet. But yeah, that now officially wraps up this market update video. Stay tuned for more market update videos in the future. And once again, appreciate everyone watching. I'll catch y'all later.